ask if you're not speaking, we're going to ask that those of you who can, if you would be muted. I think that David actually has that kind of control. So, but we certainly want to make sure that everyone is settled in and comfortable. So I want to first take this opportunity. It's 10:03, and we want to start on time so we could allow everyone else to take care of their other programs and other events that they're hosting today. This is a really important day. So I'd like to take this opportunity first to just thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to turn it over to most of you. First of all, let me introduce myself, and then we're going to go into prayer. I'm Reverend Myra Maxwell, and I am one of the co-chairs for the Urban Commission of the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference of the United Methodist Church. I also direct the Philadelphia CARES program, Crisis Assistance, Response, and Engagement for Survivors of Homicide unit at the District Attorney's Office, as well as the founder and president of Favor International, which is the acronym for Faith and Victim Services Offering Restoration. I've been in this work for a very long time, and I'm very grateful to all of you and all of the advocates and all of the leaders and all of those who are joining us today on this line. And I'd like to take this opportunity and introduce my co-chair to introduce himself, Reverend David Eckert.
Good morning. I am Reverend David Eckert. I'm pastor at Messiah United Methodist Church in Lafayette Hill. And Myra and I together are co-chairs of the Urban Commission for the United Methodist Church and the EPA conference. And I just appreciate Pastor Myra's work, and every time I get a picture of her outside the United Methodist world, I cannot imagine how she wears 4 hats. You thought I was going to say 2, but I said 4.
Yeah.
And just appreciate you and bringing your expertise and your community to the Methodist Church, and bridging all these different communities to have this discussion and to share. So thank you for putting the program together. Thank you for everyone for coming, so that we could work together and vision together and pray together this morning.
Thank you so much, David. So when you said pray together, I did fail to mention that I am the senior pastor of Trinity United Methodist Church as well. So that was the 4th hat he was talking about. So David, I'm going to ask if you would just lead us in a short prayer this morning, because we do believe that prayer changes things, and we like to include our faith. So we ask if you would just bear with us as we pray this morning.
Absolutely. Creator God, we thank you for your presence with us in each of our remote places. We thank you for your spirit, which connects us one to another across distances, even across time, oh God. Mm-hmm. We thank you that you live with us, that you work in us, that you are able to do with us and for us more than we could ever imagine ourselves. We pray now for all of us who are hurting. We lift up the joy for all who are celebrating. We lift up all our joys and sorrows to you, God, knowing that you care for us. You hold us in your hand as you move us forward and guide us forward. Oh, that we would only listen to your voice, oh God. Oh, that our communities would only turn and look,
I can hardly hear him,
and be with you and care for one another. We pray that all that we would lift up today would heal, would lift up hope, would bring new life to the people who are hearing and who will be reached by this message. Amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. We're going to ask for those of you on the line, if you are having trouble hearing, there is a way that you could turn up the volume if you're on screen. So if you look at the bottom, lower bottom, it should be something that controls your hearing or the volume controls. We're going to ask that if you would put yourselves on mute, please. David, if you can control that, then we would be grateful.
We are recording this. This will be available on the website of the Eastern Pennsylvania EPA Conference, United Methodist Church, epaumc.org. Thank you for your participation. And I think this is not a webinar, so this will be all our squares. If you want to focus on the presenter, you can do that in the upper right corner where your view button, you can choose your different view. So you are in control of that. When we come to question time, you can put your questions in the chat or also raise your hand, and Myra will be calling on questions after the presenters.
Also, for all of you who need training hours, certificates are available. You will get 2 hours of training for this. The Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency has allowed us to have 2 training hours for this event. So if you need that, I'm going to ask that you would reach out to me via email. I will put that in the chat, so you will have that very shortly. But I want to just again, thank everyone for your time today and your effort. But I want to move on with this program so we can go forward. Again, if you are not on mute, please put yourselves on mute. This is very important because we are recording this event. So we thank you. If you're on the phone, if you know how to mute it, I believe that it might be *5 or *6. Anyone know which one? I'm not sure, but you can mute yourself that way as well. And we do thank everyone for joining us today. Today we have a very special program, and very great presenters that we've invited to come and share with us today. So I'm going to share the screen with you. Can everybody see the screen? For those of you who are, you cannot see the screen. Let me see if I can go back and share it. I am trying to share it. So let's see if I can get it up. Of course, we have a technical difficulty just because we're trying to get the screen up, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move back a little bit and try to find the PowerPoint again and get back on the Zoom set. So David, I think I only see you currently on my Zoom.
Myra, I think I have it. Would you like me to share it?
Yes, will you please?
Is that visible to people?
Yes, I see it.
David, I think that's the incorrect one. So let me try to send this one to you. So sorry about this, guys. We were trying to get everything exactly the way it needed to be. So I could see the screens, but I'm not actually coming up with the PowerPoint, but the PowerPoint is up. Still not sharing? All right. So I'm going to invite, actually, while I'm doing this, I'm going to invite Maxine Gooden to actually share her story with us a little bit. And then I'm going to try to get this PowerPoint up. I apologize. I am working on it. I had it up before and I don't. Wanda Shonda. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with this PowerPoint. It's giving me all kind of fits today. But I'm going to turn it over to Maxine. She can share her story while I'm actually trying to pull up this screen.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for taking this time out of the morning to join us today. It's such a pleasure to be a part of this this morning. My name is Maxine Gooden, and I am the founder and president of Women of Valor 74 Women's Empowerment Program, and also Job World 18 Mentoring. And Job World 18 Mentoring stems from the death of my son. He was murdered in November of 2017 while visiting his sister in Harrisburg on Thanksgiving break. He never made it back home. He was a great student. He went to Boys Latin High School. He was a senior He had a 3.5 GPA, played football, just got accepted into numerous colleges. And so he was there during Thanksgiving and never made it back home. So I decided to take that pain and turn it into a program. Gyro 18 first started off as a football scholarship. We give anywhere between $100 to $500 to students that play football and have the same criteria that my son had, which is good grades, team leadership skills on and off the field. And then I decided to take a step further, and now we have a mentoring program where we mentor young men at Boys Latin between the ages of 12 and 18. We started off just mentoring the high school students, but now we were asked this year to mentor the middle school students as well. So I'm really glad to be able to keep his name and his legacy alive through that program. And the vision is to expand it. It means the world to me to continue that program, to keep his name alive, which helps me to be able to smile, knowing that I am still parenting, as Lisa Christian told me, I'm still parenting him, but just parenting other young men. And the honest truth is, every young man that I mentor, every young man that I see walking down the street, I see my son. And so I just try to do what I can do to give them a safe space to talk about what they're going through, and also to teach them different things to hold their head up. So it's a very good program, and I'm proud to be doing what I do.
So I want to thank you, and I think we are going to be ready for our video, and then next thing we'll have you to talk a little bit more about the work that you're doing and sharing a little bit more about your son with us. So David, if you could put it on, that is the correct video. The sound is not up.
Hear the sound now?
No, we don't have sound.
Good. Video. You don't have the sound?
No.
I'm not sure what's happening. I'm looking at it. I see the sound. I'm sharing. Stop share. You hear me speaking?
Yes, we do.
Share. Play video. And do you hear the singing? I paused it, but you didn't hear it.
No, we didn't. We didn't
Okay,
hear
I'm sorry.
sound on it.
Okay. I'm not sure what's happening with that.
All righty. We're just gonna move past it and see if we can do what we need to do. Let me share.
Prior,
this.
prior to starting the PowerPoint, there's a screen that says at the bottom, optimize. There are two boxes there. If you could check both of those boxes, just make sure those boxes are checked. And then, do you see it?
Okay. Thank you for some direction. Where Myra's sharing now. Can you tell us again where
Go back
optimize?
before you put the PowerPoint up. Go back to the screen prior to that. go to your share screen. Just go to your share screen. Come out of this.
Okay, Mara, you're sharing the PowerPoint. Do you need sound for the PowerPoint?
I think I have, because I have the video on it too. So
Okay,
let me see
okay.
if I could get back into it and pull it back up. Okay. Let's see if I can get it to play.
Mara,
Yes.
come out of this screen and just go to your share screen. Just click out of this.
Click out of this. Wait. I have the sound. I don't know. Can you hear it?
No, we don't have the sound, and we're looking at your PowerPoint, not the video.
Okay.
Go to share screen.
Mm-hmm.
Pull that up.
Okay.
Okay.
At the bottom of the share screen, there are two boxes to your left.
I got it.
So she texts me like in the morning.
Yeah, sent me down to this office. I'm like, what's up? Yeah, so your mom on the phone.
And I looked in the GM, and Lodge called my phone to me.
And my mom tell me one of my friends got shot.
And he got shot.
He must be bad. I'm thinking he playing.
And he texted, he was like, yo, I think Johnson died. I'm like, what? That don't make no sense. I was just talking to him.
And there was all this caution tape on the block. And I didn't know what happened.
So I tried to make it to the hospital.
I thought he was gonna pull it through.
But then on my way there, he was like, he died.
That's when they told me that James got killed, like the night before.
Crazy, I didn't think it was real.
Cause I was with him the day before and shit. At the same park.
I probably called him like 30 times. I still couldn't believe it.
I didn't know who it was. And then she said Tahir. And then all I remember was I just threw the phone and I just left. You know I'm telling y'all. Make it out, youngin', you can just know I'm telling y'all. Bullets fly like everyday shit, regular. I just bust like 5 dots on my cellular. My mom need me, I'm just trying to be a better son. Hey, up that torch can show remorse, cause I can die for none. They put my dog in the shade, he can't see the sun. I'm just trying to make it out, I had to run it up. I just hope that I don't die in Philadelphia. 1,000 bad days, but I need me some better ones. I had creases in my forces, now I need better ones. Shit changed when you make it and you come from none. Back in the day we shrewd niggas, ain't no one-on-ones. But I still could stand on it if it came to one. I put my dog in the dirt, he can't see the sun. R.I.P. my niggas, they wish he could see a sign. My life just started, but some shit I had to overcome. All this gas heal my pain, cause I be super numb. And I knew you could be. I don't picture me raising a kid in this city, to be honest. That's not my goal. I feel like kids ain't gonna have no hope for real. Like now, like when you little, like you got a lot of stuff to look forward to. But like, how can you look forward to a lot of stuff and like you got friends dying left and right? Then that started to question you, like, am I gonna make it to 18? Am I gonna make the graduation? Am I gonna make it to 21? Am I gonna have a kids, a family? Like,
they have to feel empowered. They have to be strong. James Baldwin, he said, your crown has been bought and paid for. All you have to do is put it on. All you have to do is wear it. But I have to be honest, it's hard to feel like they can have that long-range plan. It's hard sometimes to feel in control of one's own destiny when life and love can be snatched from them, from us, so quickly.
In 8th grade year, lost my pop. Fucking 10th grade year, 11th grade year, beginning 11th grade year, I lost my man James. This year, I lost my man Jason, my uncle Nard, and Bill. But Bill, that's my young boy. Like that was it.
Yeah, it started with my man Nas. We was in 7th grade. Then it was Corey in 8th grade. Then 9th grade was Ty. Then it was my cousin Danny. Then 11th, going into 10th grade, it was 10th grade was my uncle. Going to 11th was my man King. Then Ja. Then was my man Karan. Then like Karan died 2 days before my birthday, and right after that, Bill died on my birthday. Then after that, who was it? My man Devin. Then was my man Ray. Yeah, that was it.
Honestly, like the first week, it was hard. Like one day, like I just came, sat here for like a whole period in front of this drum. But as the days go on, it was like a normal thing. It was normal.
Now, like for like the first month, like the vibe was different, but it's like we all wasn't as close as we was now before Jason died. So now it feels better that we all close now.
School was an outlet for a lot of people. Like some people, even if they didn't want to do no work, they felt safe and happy at school. And everybody can't say that.
It was emotional because you see, he was a teen that died, so everybody was crying. So it was emotional for me.
I was in shock, like I didn't feel like it was real.
It made me depressed. It made me like real depressed. It got to the point where I wanted to take my own life.
Constantly just thinking about it, like it ain't nothing that just go away. Like you like it just, people try to act like it never happened, but like that's something like once it happened, it happened.
This year, I went through a lot of shit. So sometimes I be waking up, I just don't be feeling like, I just don't feel like getting out the bed and moving. The real rap, I just don't feel like doing shit sometimes. I was never this lazy before this year. But I just feel like all this, everything that's going on, just made me not want to do certain shit no more.
The whole toxic masculinity thing, like everybody just think that's normal, like oh boy should just be tough, no feelings, stuff like that. But like when you lose somebody, that's a completely different feeling. Like maybe you don't gotta talk about your feelings about a girl or something like that, but like when you lose somebody, it's just that really like that do something to you, like change your whole mindset, like change your whole mood, change how you go day by day.
Ways that I cope, I don't know. I just smoke. I rap, so like sometimes I put them in my raps, sometimes I don't.
My nigga to the fucking end. I can't believe you took my brother on some busted shit. So every day I'm rolling up, I'm on some roster shit. My mama know I'm off the drugs and I ain't proud of it. Can't even answer my own thoughts, so please don't ask me shit.
I don't really like talking to people about like stuff I'm going through. It's like I feel like nobody feel like how I feel. So I can't really talk to you about how I feel.
I don't show emotions, but like if somebody talk about me or something, I still smile and laugh so they think I'm playing. But it might be something real serious. I'm still smiling, but the whole time I might be mad or I might be sad.
I know how to keep my emotions inside and keep a straight face on.
I just think about memories and shit that make me smile, so I don't gotta be sad. People show how they're hurting different. Like I might have somebody that he might be feeling like he hurt, but he might go out and do something stupid, and then that's how he's showing it. But a lot of people don't see that or see what you're going through. You just see somebody that did something stupid. And just...
For me, like it was like a continuous thing. Like if it wasn't one friend, it was another one. Like I really lost friends consecutive, like back to back. And it was just like, I couldn't keep taking it. And it was to the point where I stopped going to candle lights because I just hate feeling that feeling. Always feeling like, damn.
Just seeing everybody he was cool with, like, kind of move past his death, and, like, do everything in his name. So that helped me, move forward. People are not really thinking about your feelings because everybody losing somebody. So it's hard to try to help the world.
The J Shot was lost about a year ago today due to violence.
I feel like it's pushing me to do better. Like, we all out here playing football for one reason. Like, we don't just play for fun. Everybody out here competing for that scholarship. So, like, we talked about it a couple times, but, like, now it's, like, really, like, I got to do this. Like, I don't want to be in Philly the rest of my life. I'm trying to get out of here.
It's plenty of times where they could have kicked me out of boys' land and stuff like that, but they kept me in there, and I came out on top at graduation. That was like one of my biggest moments. But like, everybody not don't got that support system though. Like, some kids just don't got nobody in their corner backing them at all. They all they got, so they just they surviving how they can, how they gotta do it.
You got a red dot on your head everywhere you go.
Crazy, like, messed up world. Philly messed up. It's sad.
Wherever you go, you always gonna look at that as a how can I say this? As a nigga, as a person that's just useless. They don't mean nothing. That's not gonna do nothing in your life.
That's a lot of stuff that you can do in life because other people don't get the chance.
Most of the stuff I do, like, he should be doing too. Like, it ain't no reason we do this. Like, we went the same route.
It's like, I'm alive. Thank you. Like, niggas not making to see 16, 17, shit. Niggas can't even go to college.
So like, I already know it's not gonna stop, it's not gonna end. It's like, every moment I have with somebody I love, I just gotta really cherish that moment, because I really had homies that I really like shook hands the day before and they died the next day, or I was with them when they got shot. Like,
I see all these people dying at my age, and like that was Yamo Bill was the same age as me, and that was me 2 years ago. I'm borderline away of dying, and like I pulled through. So I just be thinking like I'm lucky. I'm lucky, and I just gotta take every day. I feel like God put me here for a reason, so now I really gotta do what I'm supposed to do. Put a good example for my little sister. Get through school. I feel like I got a purpose. I don't know what it is though, but I feel like I really got a purpose.
It make you think about it every time. Like I wonder what life would have been like if you was still here, but like that's just how life is.
I feel like the losses made me stronger. They hurt me as well. Like, you know, your feelings get hurt. Obviously, you lose people that you care about. But like losing 3 friends, like in 2 years since I got to high school, like it hurt. Like, but I feel like it make me value life more and like make me want to work harder to get where I need to be and do what I need to do while my time's still here.
Like, you ask some people out here, they probably just telling you I'm living every day to, like, it's my last, and that's a lot of people's answers. There's some people that know what they want to do, some people that don't got a choice.
Future, hoping I fucking graduate.
65, 70 years old. I'm in my rocking chair. Bank account got like 9 zeros in it.
I hope I make it in rapping. I got a passion for it, but I don't know. I'm stuck in between if I really want to take it serious or if it's just for a right now thing. Because I really wasn't even going to rap until Jason died.
It's just like, you just can't let that break you. You gotta stay strong and keep it going, keep it pushing. But still, like, you still always reminisce about the memories y'all had, the time y'all spent.
He was a good person. Like, if I could see him, but just like, there's nothing specific that I say. It's just, I just wish we could have another moment together.
Yeah, I'm afraid of losing somebody else. Or losing multiple people. I don't want to lose nobody else.
You know I'm telling y'all.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, I can. I'm trying to take this off.
I know some of the language was a little
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get it down for you.
use their own word. I don't see it. Anyone else sees it? I don't see it. A lot of the rap music that was being played in the documentary, that was music rap music wrote, which was another expression of their and as you can see in that documentary, it's very they were very open about how they felt. And the biggest thing, a lot of those students, that was filmed in 2019, and a lot of those students, by the grace of God, left Philadelphia, have college, left Philadelphia, and they are working, they are doing great, and in touch to this day. And it's a Boys Latin, I don't know if a lot of you know, lost numerous students back to back. And so a lot of those young men were having emotions of helplessness, emotions of sadness, emotions of not really their wicked throughout the school year. So it's very thing for the Boy has suffered another loss most recently a few months ago. The student KJ, who was also a senior, who was also a football student inside of it as well. He won. So again, as I spoke about team, my biggest thing that is so yes, they a lot of students I know suffer from PTSD. They suffer from PTSD seeing these memorials that are on the street corners. As you know, in the news every day, unfortunately, we are losing young people. So we have a lot of work to do. We have to see what do these kids need. We have to start helping to heal them. We have to just get to the root cause of again, where they're coming from. And I personally believe that a lot of it is sadness, and they don't know where to put it. They don't know where to go with it. So I'm just glad that this documentary also let the kids have their input. A lot of advice for this. It was a great for them, a great outlet.
So thank you, Maxine, so much for sharing this video with us. These were the students, again, as you saw from Boys Latin. Many of them have lost so many college friends, family members to violence in our city. So we just want to thank the school, and we want to thank you, Maxine, for sharing that with us. And we know that we had some technical difficulties. However, the message still went across well, because we have to make sure that we are looking at our young people. They are suffering, and that we're here to provide the support that they need. So thank you again, Maxine, for joining us today. And please do know that we will keep you lifted up, and certainly all of the students at Boys Latin. And we thank them so much for allowing us to view this video today. Our second presenter, does anyone have any questions for Maxine? I think that she really responded to many of our questions in the beginning, and certainly after the video. So at this time, then we'll turn it over to our second presenter today, Reverend Lamar Stewart, who is someone who's out on the street all of the time, really engaging with our young people and many people in our community. So he's a colleague of mine, and we're just very grateful that he was able to join us for this short few moments. So I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Lamar Stewart to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. And we do want to make sure that you all know he is still a Philadelphia detective. So we thank him so much for joining us. Turning it over to you, Reverend Stewart.
Thank you so much, Reverend Maxwell, for first the opportunity to share and to be part of this amazing, amazing reflection and day of remembrance for individuals who lost their lives to gun violence. Thank you for your advocacy and providing support to victims, families, and survivors, and those who are impacted by gun violence, specifically homicide. As Myra mentioned, I'm the senior pastor of the historic Taylor Memorial Baptist Church in Nicetown, Tioga. Just a couple of weeks ago, I celebrated 11 years as pastor of Taylor. I'm also the founder and executive director of Tailor Made Opportunities, which is a nonprofit organization focused on violence prevention. And then a Philadelphia detective and the chief of community engagement at the DA's office. I want to talk a little bit about my role at the DA's office and the work that we're doing there, but also at my church to support the city and those impacted by gun violence. When DA Krasner hired me to come on, my primary role was to establish a unit that will focus on building bridges and increasing the DA office's visibility in communities across the city. And over the last 2.5 years since I've been there, we've been able to hire staff to increase that visibility in community meetings and building bridges with faith leaders and building bridges with seniors, but certainly building bridges with young people. Every month, the third week of every month, we host listening sessions at 14 schools throughout the city. And most of those schools are public schools, from Martin Luther King High School to Dobbins, to Mastbaum, South Philly High, Alden Reed, Mathematics, Civics and Sciences, and amongst other schools throughout the city. And we're talking to young people and listening to them around issues of public safety and gun violence. And I was listening to the documentary that Maxine presented just a moment ago, and hearing the young man say that everybody is losing somebody. And that is certainly something that many young people that I come in contact with are mentioning when asking the question of how many of you in a classroom have lost someone. Normally the vast majority of the room is raising their hand. And so part of our role in the community engagement unit is to connect young people in schools and staff at those schools to trauma support, to programs like CARES at our unit run by Myra Maxwell, and other programs and community-based organizations that are doing work to support families. But I also have the role as a spokesperson for the DA's office to respond to crisis incidents in the city, while CARES, under the amazing leadership of Myra, responds to homicides, and they do a specific role and do it very well. There are times where I'm responding as a spokesperson to stand with the police commissioner and other city officials at crime scenes. And there's been a few that have impacted me. In fact, all of them have. When I think about some that have impacted my family personally, it was a young lady named Siani Smalls just a couple of years ago who was getting off of a bus, just coming home from what we call the gallery, that they now call the Fashion District, right at 22nd and Sedgley. She was just a half a block from home. She also was a student at Mathematics, Civics and Sciences, where my son was a student. My son is now a freshman at Hampton University. And she was shot and killed just a half a block away from her house. Didn't even know she was a friend and student at my son's school until I got home that night. And he said, "Dad, I just lost a friend at the gun violence at my school." And he didn't know I was just there on the scene. I had to support both our staff at the DA's office and others with connecting with the family and other community stakeholders in that area. When I think about Zamar Jones, who was 6 years old, and just a couple of years ago, playing with a toy on 200 North Simpson Street in West Philadelphia, and then being gunned down during a shootout right there on the block. When I think about a funeral that I just preached of a young lady named Simone Monet Rogers, who was 15 years old, playing basketball, going up for a layup when a gunman opens fire on a court, and she was struck and murdered. And as you're doing this work, as we've been doing this work, I didn't realize that gun violence would also impact my family. In this last year, my brother was shot 4 times back in November. I lost a cousin to gun violence last summer down 10th and Thompson. And then I lost an aunt to gun violence in Feltonville last summer as well. And so as community advocates, often, and those of us who are sitting in positions across the city and in government, we're doing a lot to influence policy and shape policy. But many of us, like Myra, like others, have also been personally impacted. And so I appreciate this opportunity to share and hearing your stories, Maxanne and others who will be present, is really what inspires me to continue to push, continue to advocate for communities that are impacted by gun violence. And so that service for me is connected to, of course, the work that I do at the DA's office, but also my role as a pastor. Having pastored now for 11 years, I was 25 years old when I became the pastor of Taylor Memorial Baptist Church. And I've had members in my church that have died at the hands of those carrying guns. I've had moms and dads in my church whose children I've had to bury. And this has a way of taking toll on you. And I appreciate, and I can't say it enough, Myra, for nights where I just have struggled with sleeping at night or just needed someone to talk to. I appreciate her being available and creating spaces like this where individuals can share their story and also share how gun violence has both personally impacted them, but also in their professional role. And so I just want to salute all of those and send a prayer to all those who have been impacted on this phone, whether it's been your child, whether it's been a nephew, a niece, whether it's been a loved one, a significant other. Know that you're my prayers, you're my thoughts, and we certainly appreciate all the work that you all continue to do to advocate for families around the city. So thank you, Myra, for this opportunity to share, and major salute to all the work that everyone is doing.
Thank you so much, Reverend Stewart. We absolutely appreciate you joining us on today. And I will say that Reverend Stewart is really out in the street. He is really advocating for support, especially for our young people who are really concerned about the next day, because many of them don't even believe that they have a next day. So I'm really appreciative of all of the hard work that you've been doing in this arena. And we thank you so much. And we certainly appreciate that there are numerous people impacted, and we just can one person experiencing. Multiple people are experiencing the impact of gun violence and trauma all over the city of Philadelphia, yet we can always say all over the United States right now and other places. So we really need to take this serious. And we just thank you all so much for your hard work. And thank you, Maxanne, and thank you, Reverend Lamar Stewart. We just thank you so much for joining us today. What I do want to do is I want to go back for just a moment and talk about what does this mean? National Day of Remembrance for Murder victims. This was something that came out of a group called Parents of Murdered Children many years ago. It was because of a family had lost their daughter to a homicide death. And in that, they created the group Parents of Murdered Children. They started in their home, and they continued to engage with other parents who had lost children to homicide throughout their area. And then, of course, going now throughout the nation, because it is a national group. Parents of Murder Victims also started what we know today as the Anti-Violence Partnership of Philadelphia, which started off as Families of Murder Victims. And so they've been around a very long time. So I do want to share that, because this is not something that we're doing just for today to honor today, but this has really, violence and murder has impacted many, many families throughout the nation. And these groups come up to support it. It started off as a support group for families and parents who had lost children and loved ones to homicide. So we want to continue on with our program today, but we do want to share that there are so many people here on this line that have been impacted, and certainly on our team. When we talked about the Philadelphia Cares unit at the district attorney's office a little bit, but we're going to have two of our wonderful staff members actually begin to share their stories with you and their work with Cares at the district attorney's office. So I'm going to turn it over to Shakina DeShazor, and then following her, we're going to turn it over to Ayanna Green. They are wonderful, and I'm going to let them talk about themselves at this moment. So Shakina, we're going to start with you, and then Ayanna will go following Shakina. We'll have you to go on and talk about your story. Shakina.
Unmute, Shakina.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Shakina, the administrative manager for CARES. Just a little bit of background. I've been in the field of helping people since I was about 17, 18. I always enjoyed helping people. The main fields that I stuck in back then was mental health and substance abuse. So I always was in that field until about 2018. Around 2018, November, my brother had got killed. And our family, my dad, sisters, brothers, we didn't, know what was the next steps to do, how to do them, the resources that the city had. About maybe 2 to 3 weeks after my brother got killed, I interviewed for a position in the CARES program as a PCR. I actually got hired, and they asked me, like, are you sure you want to do this? Do you want to do this right now? They were asking me that because my brother had just got killed, and they just wanted to make sure that, I was able to help others while still trying to grieve and go through the process of dealing with my brother. So I said I was ready. In January of 2019, I actually started helping others. I started out as a PCR. The enjoyment of helping others, because I know I didn't have that help. We didn't know who to turn to. We didn't know who to call. We didn't know what we can get out of the city of Philadelphia. When it was court time, we didn't know what to do. And Heather is on the line, and Heather played a big part in helping me through the court process with my brother. Like, she always was calling me, letting me know updates, making sure I was okay, making sure other family members knew what was going on. So Heather played a big part of getting me through the court process, because I didn't know back then, like I know now, going to court is kind of re-traumatizing. So it's like you sitting there, you kind of grieved a little bit, but once you get back to court, everything hits you all over again. And it's like you starting the process all over again, because you're actually hearing what's going on, how it happened, who did it, and all this other stuff. So that Heather played a big part of helping me through that also. About 2020, I came on full time. Although I came on full time as administrative manager, I still went out on scenes, went to the hospital, still helped people. I still kept cases. I think it was very important to do that, because you have a lot of people out here who still doesn't know what to do, how to do it, who to call. Just about a week ago, I had a young lady on the line with me for about an hour because she couldn't get the courage or that motivation to call to see when her next court date was. So I stayed on the phone with her for an hour until she found out. So I felt good helping her, knowing that, she didn't have the energy to help herself. And although that we supposed to stay, with them for about 45 days while they transition over to a long-term facility, I still felt the need to help people. And I also, not too long ago, stayed with a family for 3 months, helping her look for a place to live. And it was kind of hard and frustrating because I'm seeing what she's going through and having to bounce from place to place because there's so much violence going on that whatever PHA or whatever program that she in cannot move them as quickly because they're trying to move other survivors of homicide from their houses. So a lot of stuff, I feel for it, although I didn't have to go through relocation and all that, but I feel what they're going through, needing that help and that motivation, or knowing someone is willing to help them and willing to care and help them move on. So that played a big part of, why I wanted to stay in this field. And I think I'm still helping people, but I'm just helping them in a different way opposed to how I was helping other people before.
You mentioned PCR. Can you tell us what PCR is?
PCR is a peer crisis responder, which we go out and the immediate aftermath of the crime happening, which may be on the scene, or if they were transported to a hospital, we go to the hospital. If we need, well, not now, but then if we needed to meet them at the MEO's office, which is the medical examiner's office, we did that. Or if they needed us to go to a funeral home, we did that also. So PCR is a peer crisis responder.
Okay. Thank you, Shakina. Shakina, I know that you have another role, so tell us a little bit about the role that you have now, because you still actually are doing some responses as well. So can you share a little bit about what your role is like now and the change that was made from your position?
A little bit about what I do now is I, along with Myra, when we get a police alert, we deploy a team out. We never deploy no one out by themselves. It's 2 people go out on the scene, and we actually deploy them out, tell them where they need to go. I also keep track of basically all the homicides that come through, who went to the crisis response, who we deployed that case to, who it was referred to, meaning what long-term facility it was referred to. That would be about, as long as the people, our PCRs have them. So I basically keep track of, what's going on with the case, who had it, and what we did with them, and who we referred them to.
Thank you so much, Shakina. And again, we are really appreciative of you sharing your story. We know that Shakina is one of the few people who started with the program very early on. Her brother had only been deceased for about 2 weeks, and she wanted to jump right in and do this work. Generally, we make sure that staff is vetted a little bit more because we want it to be longer term. However, sometimes people are really ready to jump in, and we do offer now, starting October 1st, just so if anyone is interested, we will be training volunteers to work with the CARES program in the DA's office. So if you have an interest, please put it in the chat for us, or reach out to us via email. We'll put our information in at some point, so you will have that. So we will be training volunteers to work with the program as well. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our to Ayanna Green. Ayanna, I've known her family for many, many years, and I'm very grateful that she joined the CARES team. But Ayanna has a very unique story as well, and a history of working and providing service in Philadelphia. So we're really grateful to have our program manager, assistant supervisor with us. She is an awesome woman, and she really makes sure she holds some things together for this job. So Ayanna, I am turning it over to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Myra. I just want to let everybody know, thank you guys for just jumping on and just taking this time for this day of remembrance. Again, my name is Ayanna Green, and I'm the program manager and assistant supervisor over at the Community Cares Unit at the District Attorney's Office. And I am a co-victim of homicide. A lot of people don't know because in my role, I'm the program manager, but my brother was murdered in 1997, March 26. I just want to show you guys a picture of my brother. I hope you can see it. Can you see it? So that's me. This may have been 1996, and that's him. So this is the last picture I have of him. We was teens. He was 21. So this is my only brother. So he was murdered March 26, 1996. In the city of Philadelphia. He was shot 9 times in the back and died immediately. I was 18 years old, senior in high school, looking forward to everything a senior could look forward to, prom, graduation, going to college, and having my brother, my ace, by my side, and that didn't happen. He was murdered, and our lives changed after that. When he was murdered, I had no information or contact with the criminal justice system. I was a high school student. I wasn't thinking about, court, but when he was murdered, I was one of the key witnesses. So I had to deal with the courts, detectives, community, stigma. People wanted to know what happened. Why was your brother murdered? He must have been into something wrong. Something had to be wrong. People just don't get murdered. This is 1997. So it was sort of kind of an epidemic, but not as bad as today. And there wasn't resources like the CARES unit and other community resources like there's today. In 1997, when my brother was murdered, we didn't know where to go for counseling. So we went to counseling for families of murder victims. And the counseling was at the medical examiner's office. So we're walking up to the medical examiner's office like, this is not even right. And I'm 18 years old. Why am I going in this building where I had to identify my brother to have counseling? So needless to say, we never went back. So I never really got any counseling. I never really talked about it. I just buried it. I kept it to myself. And people would ask me, well, how many siblings do you have? I would sometimes say 4. Sometimes I say 3. I didn't know what to say because I didn't want to explain why my brother wasn't there. And one day I decided to heal. And it was years later that I took the steps to heal and said, you know what, I'm ready to heal. And healing is a process, years and years and years and years of process. And when I work in my role as a program manager and I work with the families, they always want to know, how did you heal? When did you heal? When did it start? What did it look like? And I tell them, healing is a process. Healing takes time. Healing takes years. It could take years. And I tell them one day, somehow, it won't hurt as bad. One day, someday, you won't cry as long, but you'll never forget. So this work is a passion. This work is a journey. This work I didn't call to do. I didn't want to be an advocate. I didn't want to be working with family victims of homicide. I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be to communicate with people. I wanted to just work with the FBI and be a profile. I had all these dreams, but God said, no, this is where you belong. So as an advocate, I feel like I have to work for not only my brother, but for individuals, the families, and for all the murder victims, all the brothers, all the sisters that are not here to speak. So when I meet a family, when I talk to a family, when I see a sister grieving, I have to be there, and I have to let them know I'm here for you. And sometimes with the stigma of homicide, the families feel re-victimized. The families feel like nobody cared. The families feel like, you know, who cares about my murdered son? My brother was homicide 126 in 1997, and that was his number. They gave him that number. So I always remember that 126. And I try to let people know that your son, your brother, your friend is not a number. We have to give words and life to our victims. So this work is a passion of mine. I'm not the one to speak a lot. I just do the work. So this day of remembrance, I haven't talked about my brother in about 10 years. So this day of remembrance is a reflection of where I've come from since I was 18 years old, and I'm 43 years old. So my brother has been deceased for over 20 years. And I had to sit and think, like I haven't heard my brother's voice in over 20 years. And with grief, sometimes you like, is it real? Is he really going? Is he never coming back? Because your brain has a way to help you cope, and your brain will do different things so you can, you know, feel better, move on, walk on, and try harder. So I had to look at the pictures to remind me, oh, this was real. I had to think about the memories when we were kids, and we would fight all the time. You know, you got a brother, you know, they're gonna pick with you. And I have to remember like the different things he would tell me. You know, you cute. You know, when you're younger, you feel, you know, insecure. You're cute. You don't need to dress like that, or you don't need that boy, or you don't, you know, you smart. So my daily life is a legacy to my brother. You know, I have a degree in criminal justice. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology. I recently passed my license as a licensed professional counselor, and I just continue to educate myself and continue to educate my community about different services, about trauma, and just healing in itself. So out of that tragedy came triumph. My family, my mother, I have 3 sisters. We created our own program for families of murder victims because there was nothing in 1997 that could reflect how we felt, what we felt, how we felt, and nobody seemed to care. So my mother is the founder. Her name is Victoria Green. And I have 3 sisters, Shantae, Asia, and Altides. And we all develop our own program. And the program is called EMIR, which was my brother's name. My brother was Emir. And it means every murder is real. So we created that program, and we went across the state of Pennsylvania to the prisons, Bradford, Huntington. We went to Temple University. We went to anybody and everybody that would want to hear, like, this is what's going on in our city, and we need help, we need healing, and so it has to start with us. So our program has been in existence since 1998, and it's still going on to this day, healing one person at a time. You heal one person, you can heal the community. So we're just doing big things for our community. And as the program manager at the district attorney's office in the CARES unit, I work primarily with the peer crisis responders, supporting them on ways to support the families, making sure the resources are available to families, making sure the families are heard, making sure we have continuity of care, making sure that the families don't feel re-victimized. So I'm in the back pushing my peer crisis responders to keep fighting and keep advocating for the families. That's my story. If you have any questions you want to ask me. Okay. No.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ayanna. I want to just share a little bit with you guys. Ayanna is the one who really, when she says pushes the peer crisis responders, they need that support, the extra support, because this work is very difficult. And we have the front, we call it the front end, and we have the back end, but both are equally important. So we make sure that all of the things are really working throughout the program and the process of the program. But I wanted to ask you this. I know that when your mother and your family started Emir, can you just tell us what that felt like as a sibling actually starting an organization that's serving the families of murder victims, and where you feel like it is today, because it still exists and Emir is one of our partners. So we want to just kind of hear from you how that felt as really starting an organization and doing the work from that perspective as a sibling.
I was 18 years old, teenager. It felt overwhelming in the beginning because people kept asking you a lot of questions. They want to know the details. And that's just human beings. And they wanted to know, how you felt, how you coped, how are you still moving throughout, your day when your brother is no longer with you. And as siblings, we all grieved differently. Like I said, I had 3 sisters, and one sister would be overly emotional, one sister would be quiet, one sister would be stoic, and one sister would be all flowery. So we all had different personalities, but it meshed with the program. So at 18, it was, it helped me. It helped me to open up. It helped me to honor my brother instead of feeling ashamed. It made me feel strong. And when you would see other kids in the audience, younger than me or older than me, they wanted to talk to me like, okay, my brother or sister passed away. What do I need to do? What do I need to, how can I get stronger? How can I speak and don't feel like I don't have a voice? So as a sibling, when you lose another sibling, it's different because you have all those goals together. Me and my brother was going to get us this car. We was going to get a car, and we was going to travel, and we were going to get a big house, and we was going to have kids together, and we were going to, raise them together. And you don't have that when they die, murder. So you all the dreams, milestones that you were going to have with that individual is gone. And that's a different feeling. Every milestone that you have in your life, you always remember the sibling that's supposed to be in that audience. Every graduation, every accomplishment, every childbirth, upcoming wedding, your sibling is not there. And you wonder, like, how would they look at, my brother would have been 45, June 30th. He would have been 45. And you just wonder, like, what would he look like at 45? Would he be a bald man? So you have all those unfinished businesses that are never going to be finished. So a sibling loss is a different feeling, a different feeling.
Thank you, Ayanna, for that. Shakina, I do have a question for you. I know you mentioned that you worked in substance abuse. Do you feel as though many people, or that people in general, that some of them may find substance abuse as a way to mask their pain when they're experiencing loss or traumatic loss from homicide?
Yes, a lot of people that came in and out the program is because they were using that addiction to cope with maybe whatever they was going through, whether it was the death of a loved one. Some was coping with that, using that addiction to cope with being jobless, being homeless. So a lot of people came through the program that I was in for different types of reasons, as to why they were addicted to what they were addicted to. And then you had some of them who was dual, which was substance abuse and mentally unstable at the same time. So some of that, whatever they were using or whatever their drug of choice would trigger something where they would need that mental health aspect of it, and also try to cope with whatever drug of choice that they were doing. So it did play a big part, and some of them was back and forth because they couldn't cope with losing someone or whatever day-to-day living that they were going through.
Mhm. I also know one thing, and I guess this is directed to either of you. I know that one of the big issues is people become homeless too after they lose loved ones to homicide at times. Can anyone talk a little bit about that and what that means?
Yes. I had a family when I first started. Her husband is the one who was murdered, and he basically was the primary breadwinner. So he took care of everything, which she didn't have to do nothing. So when he got murdered, it's like no one was paying the bills, no one couldn't pay the rent, and she didn't have nowhere to go with her and her kids because she had no job. She said she didn't have, no help from the city as far as being on welfare or things like that. So she and her family just depended on the victim, and her dependency on him left her and her children with nothing. If I recall, she didn't want to go to a shelter. She didn't want to go with family members. She wound up going outside of the city to try to start over, she said, because she was, embarrassed that she couldn't do for her children and herself.
Wow, that seems like a pretty heavy load for anyone who's experienced a homicide loss, because that's another layer of trauma, of course. And I think this is really what we're talking about here, is the layers of trauma that people can experience even in those types of losses. So we need to think about those things in ways that we can support those families. So I want to thank both of you ladies. And if you all have questions, you can put them in the chat box if you like. I'm sure that the ladies can see them, and we could probably go back around to respond to those questions as soon as we can. But I'd like to take the opportunity now, because one of my personal concerns, and I've mentioned before that I am also a co-victim of homicide. So one of my big concerns was, how do we really begin to work together and have these partnerships where we could talk about it, especially in our faith communities. Faith communities play a really key role in healing processes. And I think that this forum here, to bring it to the Urban Commission, was actually one of the reasons that we wanted to bring it here for our mini summit, is because we are a part of the community, and we are servicing families, and we are learning how to to be better at that. Of course, we have certain specific things that we do, but we want to open up the awareness to our faith-based communities as well, is that we're here. And most of you on the line, many advocates are here today. Some of you are clergy. Dr. DeShonda Williams is on the line. She's also a clergy member, and she's also a service provider. So we have folks on the line that have dual roles, such as myself and others. But however, how do we begin to get the faith community's involvement, especially when it comes to issues around therapy? So we invited one of my closest and dearest colleagues, Lisa Christian, to be with us today. And she's going to tell you who she's with. I'm sure she'll share all of that. But Lisa is one of those folks that has been taking on the role of training our staff to make sure that they are dealing and coping in positive ways, because we are all co-victims. And when they talked about peer crisis responders, one of the requirements to work in our program specifically is that you have to have lived experience, which means that we can easily be re-traumatized by what we're experiencing on a regular basis. But also we want to make sure that we are not only tapping into our therapies and all of that, but also to our spirituality, because that is a part of our healing and a part of the process. So Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about including faith and therapy, and share what you would like to share at this time. Please introduce yourself and give everybody your knowledge, because she is a wealth of knowledge and she does a lot. So thank you, Lisa. Turning it over to you.
Thank you, Myra. Good morning, everyone. As Myra stated, I'm Lisa Christian. I'm the Director of Counseling at Anti-Violence Partnership of Philadelphia. I just want to take a quick minute to thank all of you for being on the link today. This is a very important conversation. It's a very important day as we remember co-victims of violence and homicide. I can tell you that I am a co-victim of homicide. I have been a co-victim of homicide for a lot of years. I don't typically share my story because I tend to get emotional. And I've gotten a lot of help and support for it through the years. But my nephew died any number of years ago as a result of a gunshot. I have also lost other family members, extended family members. I can tell you that my son, who is 37 years old, has lost the majority of his childhood friends to gun violence. And he continues to lose friends, even at the age of 37, to gun violence. So he is always foremost in my thoughts whenever I'm working with families and working with individuals who have been impacted. And with that said, again, this is an extremely important topic. None of us is doing this work in a vacuum. We are all intricately connected to each other by virtue of the fact that this city is plagued by the epidemic of gun violence and other forms of violence, but particularly gun violence. And Myra, if you wouldn't mind sharing host controls, I have a really short PowerPoint that I'd like to share.
I can do that, just a minute.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to talk briefly about trauma within our faith communities. You know, many people have shared so far about the trauma that has impacted them and their families. But I just wanted to make the point that anytime any of us experiences trauma individually. It means that our families have now experienced trauma. Our communities have now experienced trauma. We really need to strive to get away from this notion that just because one person has experienced a traumatic event, that event, those issues stay with that one individual. Trauma impacts us all. You can't have a family with just one person being traumatized and it not impact all of the other family members. The same is true for our communities. If one person in our community is impacted by trauma, it means the entire community is impacted by trauma. And that includes our faith communities as well. We know that trauma is a public health and a public mental health as well as a spiritual health issue. And we need to treat it as such. Trauma, adverse childhood experiences, and exposure to violence are all social determinants of health. And they're social determinants of health because whenever we experience or go through or are exposed to a traumatic event, such as a homicide, it could even be a hurricane, a flood. It doesn't matter what the event is, the outcome is still the same. People begin to experience the release of cortisol and other stress hormones that literally flood the central nervous system. When that occurs over a period of time, we know that it sends people into a fight, flight, or freeze response. Having that cycle occur repeatedly puts people at an elevated risk for cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, hypertension, or high blood pressure, and other health problems that can eventually, if left unchecked, it will eventually contribute to premature death. And we see this in our communities, especially communities of color. The church is in a very good position to be able to give support and to reach out to families and be able to educate them about trauma. And not just educate them about trauma, but to also be able to give support and resources to people to be addressing these kinds of issues. Just as all of our presenters have so eloquently stated throughout this morning, we know that trauma causes and contributes to mental health and behavioral health issues, as well as substance abuse and other addictions. When we think about trauma, people oftentimes don't associate the symptoms that they're having. Symptoms such as nightmares, sleep disturbance, inability to go to sleep and or fall asleep or stay asleep. Issues such as having nightmares, and not just one or two nightmares, but nightmares that last and linger, that contribute to sleep interruption and disruption. Having issues of intrusive thoughts about the experience of trauma and not being able to really have control over when those thoughts come. People having issues with dissociative numbing, pushing your feelings away, becoming numb and seemingly apathetic to what's going on around you, spacing out. All of those things are indicators of possible post-traumatic stress disorder. And these issues contribute to issues of depression, anxiety problems, acute stress disorder. And we need to be mindful of that when we're talking about trauma, because these are the issues that are impacting our communities. These are the issues that are impacting our families, our children. Maxine talked very eloquently about losing her son and very passionately about how it's impacted her life and the life of her family, the life of the school community at Boys Latin. Boys Latin is one of a number of schools across the city of Philadelphia that's been impacted by high rates of gun violence. We also have Gratz Mastery Charter. I worked at Gratz for more than 5 years, and I can tell you that over the course of that 5 years, I have literally worked with the school community, the teachers, the support staff, the students around issues of homicide. Gratz has the highest homicide rate of any school in the city of Philadelphia. And starting off this year, Gratz has lost already 4 students to homicide. 3 students were currently enrolled in Gratz, and 1 just graduated in June. And the school community there is reeling once again as a result of losing members of their school community to gun violence. And we know that gun violence issues contribute to stigma. Stigma, shame, feelings of guilt, all contribute to people not being willing and forthcoming to share their experiences of what it is they're actually going through. And I'm encouraging faith communities to really begin to think about the fact that on top of dealing with issues of homicide, we are all dealing with issues and juggling issues of structural systemic racism, sexism, and other forms of oppression. This society continues to deal with issues of historical trauma, COVID-19, healthcare disparities, economic recession, intergenerational trauma, legitimized social inequities that contribute to civil unrest, policing issues. This is the backdrop of many of the issues that we are encountering and that we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And all of these issues, in addition to the ones we're talking about today, contribute to issues of trauma. And what I would encourage is that as the church moves forward in dealing with violence intervention, violence support, that the church begin to do more outreach efforts to those community members, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm losing my screen, to those people in the community, to not just have an obligation to instill a sense of hope, but how to continue to maintain this sense of hope. How are we encouraging people in our communities? How are we encouraging each other? Because without hope, we cannot address these issues. Without hope, without finding ways to make meaning of the experiences that all of us are grappling with respect to violence, we won't be successful. And I am encouraging that we continue and redouble efforts so the church can continue to be a place where people can go to find grounding during times of chaos and disorientation and stress. I'm encouraging members of the church to seek out trauma training, specifically around trauma-focused psychological first aid. And all that means is providing basic ways, basic tools, having basic tools to be able to reach your community members and the members of your congregation in a way that is less traumatizing, in a way that prevents further re-traumatization as you provide help support through your faith in whatever way you exercise it. Having access to mental health and behavioral health services. That could mean partnering with mental health providers, either in your congregation or outside of your congregation, for people to have a place to go in dealing with issues that we find problematic and troubling. And also having ways to be able to, and resources for referrals to meet basic needs, because we know that many people who are experiencing violence, particularly homicide, find themselves homeless because they're choosing to flee, their homes because of fear, because they want to keep the rest of their family members safe in the aftermath of violence. And I want us to think about practicing universal precautions. And universal precautions means just taking a stance that everyone we come in contact with has potentially or is someone who is already traumatized. We want to collaborate again and partner with mental health providers. I'm encouraging faith communities to begin to implement, bring in people who can provide a baseline of trauma training, a baseline of training around suicide, homicide, and intimate partner violence issues, as well as to provide congregations with information about how to deal with issues of retaliatory violence. Because we know that in the aftermath of homicides, particularly among youth, many adults, many parents, fathers, mothers, siblings, experience fantasies of retaliation. They have ideation of retaliation. And we need to know as a faith community how to go about dealing with that. Where do we find supports when we learn that someone is experiencing this? And lastly, just learn more about community resources. And because many of our congregations are meeting virtually, I'm encouraging everyone to give someone on the link a virtual hug, because it literally may be the only hug you get all week. So thank you for letting me share. And if you have any questions or concerns about anything that I've raised today, please feel free to let me know. I'm going to stop share at this point.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We certainly appreciate your input. Lisa has been so instrumental in training for us. Again, I mentioned earlier, our staff and others. Lisa is very involved in the work, and she is certainly a phenomenal therapist. She works with many people, and I tell you, she has just really done amazing work within the field of victim services. So we want to thank you, Lisa, for sharing with us today and being with us today, because it's very important that we include our spirituality or our faith in the work that we do as advocates, and certainly in the work that we do as the church, because this is under the Urban Commission. So I encourage all of my colleagues on the phone that if you would like to consider training, please reach out to me. You all have my number already. You all have my contact information, and we will be putting our contact information into the chat. So because we have so many wonderful organizations and everyone represented here, if you would like to share your information, please, we have all of your stuff because you did register. So we'll be sending out some information to all of you about upcoming trainings that we will be hosting. The Urban Commission will also, on November 20th, I believe is the date, offer another Urban Summit. We have not gotten the format together yet, but you will get information regarding the next Urban Summit. Again, we know that violence is really amongst one of the top things that we talk about, in particularly gun violence, and we certainly want to make sure that we are reaching out to as many of you as we can to sit down to talk about what we can do collectively and how we can support the organizations that do the work in the field, but also how we can bring the resources into our faith-based communities that will help our congregations, as was spoken about earlier by Reverend Stewart. So I do want to thank you all for that. Now, as we talk about National Day of Remembrance, I want you to know that we do have something prepared. This is a part of this particular event that is very touching and very moving. We know that we had numerous homicides in the city of Philadelphia, and because today represents the Day of Remembrance, a national day of remembrance for murder victims, we thought it would only be appropriate to share some of those names with you today. We know that this could be very heavy on the hearts of the people, so I'm going to ask for those advocates that are on the line. If someone is having difficulty and needs to talk, if you would put your information in case someone just needs to talk, and we will also, maybe a few minutes after this session is over, that we will stick around and maybe we could debrief with some of you who need to be debriefed. Victimization is not easy. It is certainly not something that we take lightly. Again, many of us on this line have not only been impacted in one way, but some of us are co-victims, survivor family members, have lost loved ones to homicide. We've known friends or people in our community, our neighbors. This gives us an opportunity to honor them and remember them today. This particular event was hosted really as a training event, but also a day to remember. Because again, as Lisa even mentioned, we don't often talk about our own losses, but many of us have experienced them. So we encourage you, please put your information and share with the group your information. Those of you who are willing to just support someone on this line who may feel a little strongly or a little impacted by what you're about to see. But I do want to take the opportunity and thank all of our presenters. You've experienced something that we hope those who haven't experienced will never experience. We want you to know that we're here to stand beside you, stand with you, to support you in any way that we can. And if you need anything, information or resources, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of us on the line. I will put my information fully in the chat in a little while. But if you have any questions or any thoughts, we'll open up the floor for just a couple of comments, and then we're going to move to the next portion, which I have to screen share. And so if you have any comments, I'm sure that one of my colleagues will be able to respond if I am unable to do so. So at this time, please, if you have questions, please give us your questions. And I certainly want to make sure that you all reach out, because when we talked about parents of murdered children, we have Reverend Leroy West on the line, who is a chapter leader in Central Philadelphia. So we want to thank him for being here because this is where this National Day of Remembrance actually was birthed, through parents of murdered children. So we are very honored to have you on the line with us today, sir. And we'd like to give you an opportunity, if you want to just briefly say something, please do so.
Good morning and thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
My daughter was murdered in 2016, 19 years old. The difference between me is she was not shot, but she was sexually assaulted, strangled, and then the guy set her on fire. It's been a very difficult time. I got hired as a school district of Philadelphia police officer a month before she was killed. And I truly loved my job up until March. I've had to retire for disability. COVID infected my lungs. So I'm now retired from there. But the relationship that I built with the children, I hear a lot of people talk about schools and everything. These kids become part of us. And when we lose one, it hurts. And I do have a question if anybody can answer it. It basically, even though I'm not with the school district, I have been asked by several schools to continue to support and come in and speak to the children, especially the males, when they're going through something like this because of the rapport that I have built. I started out at Frankfurt High School, and as anybody knows, there's been a lot of shootings involving Frankfurt students. POMC has been an avenue for me. And I said, what can I do to keep my daughter's name alive and help others? And POMC popped up out of nowhere. And one of the good things I like about it is in order to open a chapter with POMC, you have to be a survivor. One of the complaints that I have from a lot of families in our group is a lot of groups or organizations that they belong to, the leaders or the people who are in charge have never lost a child. And it makes it difficult for them to understand what the people are going through. So this has definitely been a good experience. We started in May, and as up to date, we have 31 families in our organization right now in Central Philadelphia. And we are growing very quickly. And I just ask for your continued prayer. And I love what Lisa Christian had to say. It seems like the church only gets involved at the time of a funeral. And we need to get involved before then. So I'm actually putting together a men's grieving group because men grieve differently. We like to hold things in. I know I do with my daughter, but it can cause a lot of problems. So I'm starting a men's grieving group as well. And we also with POMC have a children's grieving group. And you have to be careful with that because children, you know how children are. So they're very specific on procedure when you're dealing with kids. But just keep us in prayer. We're continuing to move forward. We have an event tonight, as a matter of fact, where we're bringing the families together in person. So it's been a blessing. And I just ask for your continued prayer. And anybody, I put my information in there. Anybody wants to reach out to me, please feel free to do so.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us on today. And at this time, I'm going to do another screen share so you know that I'm new to all of this. So we're going to make it work this time. At least we hope we will. So I'm going to share this screen with you guys.
Myra, before you go.
Yes.
We have a chat from Tracy Best Harris, and she's reaching out from Jersey, from Camden. And Ms. Harris, would you like to go on live?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I am West Philly born and raised, 54th and Delancey. My heart is Philly. I live in Abington. I travel to Camden every day, 22 years. My heart breaks today because I see this every day with young men and young ladies who have no hope. And they think that's all there is. And I teach Algebra 1, but I also teach a CTE course called Intro to Education, which is a partnership with Rowan, and they hope that the kids will go to college. But I had the kids write an essay this past week, and the majority of them kept saying, it's hard being Black. Or it's hard, I'd rather be in PR because there is nothing here. I've lost 3 students, 2 to gun violence, and a young lady who went to a party and they slipped something in her drink and she slipped into a coma. And her parents pulled the plug. That should not be. That should not be. And as adults, We can't go backwards, but we have to find a way to give these kids hope that they matter, that someone is listening and someone sees them because they have value. So I don't know what the answer is. I'm hoping that there's some partnership that I can introduce to my principal and we can bring it into the school. Because there has to be more life, and no offense to anybody with sports, because sports is a great outlet. But each one of these kids matters, and each one of these kids has a brain, and each one of these kids needs to be heard, and each one of these kids can be and are a value to society. Otherwise, God would not have placed them with us. So thank you for indulging me. Pray for me as I am with them every day. And they do result to violence, and they do smoke, and they're looking for answers. They're looking to know that somebody cares. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. We certainly understand your circumstances and your pain, and we are praying your strength. Absolutely, we will do that, and we'll continue to do that. We do have some numbers in the chat that you can reach out to any of those on the line. You can certainly reach out to me at any time. So please feel free to do so, and we will be able to help. I'm sure that my colleagues on this line, that we can get together and support you in New Jersey and help to identify some ways that we could partner, because we all are part of the tri-state area. So we certainly need to support one another. And thank you so much for taking this time and sharing your concerns. Thank you. Can everybody see the screen this time? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
All righty. At this time, our hearts are going to remember those who we have lost. And we're specifically adding, doing this because we have the information from Philadelphia. In 2020, Philadelphia experienced 499 homicides. That does not include the vehiculars. So our hearts remember those in 2020 and 2021 through this video. We know that it's a lot of names, but as we're going through these names, we're going to get to the end of it. When we get to the end, if you all would like to share the name of your loved one, we will give opportunity for that to occur. And then I'm going to ask at the end of the video if Dr. DeShonda Williams will give us a very brief prayer for all of us and for those families who have lost loved ones. Please, please keep your phones on mute and respect and honor the names that will be displayed. 397 to date in 2021. At this time, we open up the floor for anyone who would like to say a name.
Robin West.
Arnold Battle.
Kevin Robinson.
Rashawn Anderson Mincy.
Amir Simpson.
David Beckton.
Naquan Smith.
Joel Smith. Dr. Williams.
Yes, thank you very much. Let us all pray. Most gracious God, we thank you for you are the great I am. You're the one that give us the strength that we need to get through these perilous times. God, I thank you for every heart and mind that's been on this Zoom on this morning. I pray, oh God, that you send your ministering angels to minister to their hearts, to their spirits, to encourage them and to empower them to know, God, that we could do all things through your son, Christ Jesus, who gives us strength. And God, we just thank you for this day of remembrance, that we will continuously lodge those names that we've called out and those names that we've seen flash before our eyes, lodged into our hearts, that you give us the strength to continue to do the work. You give us the ability to connect to those who need to have the work to be completed. And I just thank you, God, for the leadership and the guidance of Dr. Myra Maxwell. Continually, oh Lord, to give her the strength and the vision to continuously be a trailblazer in our community, and all those who are been on this line to present and share their stories. Help them, oh Lord, to continually be trailblazers for our communities, of those who are part of this series and part of this experience, oh God. We just ask, God, that people that are calling in from all over, that you help them, oh Lord, that you comfort them. And God, as we leave from this experience today, we do not want to leave from your presence. Holy Spirit, be with us, lead us and guide us today and forevermore. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen. And at this end of this session, we thank you all. We are honored that you joined us. We hope that you have felt our love moving from heart to heart, and for all of the families that we service and work with on a regular basis. We appreciate you. We thank you. And every balloon that you saw that was being lifted is a balloon of hope for our young people today. We thank you for joining us. And if you have anything else that you need to do and certificates, please reach out to me. My information is in the chat. We thank you. Go in peace and have a peace-filled day.
Bless. Thank you, Reverend Maxwell.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an excellent program.
Thank you.
Pastor Eckhart, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm just riding along, supporting. Thank you.
To all the presenters, we give thanks.
Absolutely.